We were going to talk about Netflix a bit, though, weren't we, as well?
Let's do that.
Favourite Netflix show, Dale?
So Gav's got one. So he might want to go first, which
All right,
I shared.
Gav, what's your favourite Netflix show this year?
It was Narcos. It's such a... I kind of know quite a lot about the story of...
Pablo Escobar.
That's
a good start.
I love him. I'm obsessed with
What's his name?
Except his name.
Yeah.
And so I was interested to see how they sort of went about doing this.
Same.
But it's such a good show, like perfectly casted Escobar. I think like he's really, really good.
Absolutely, he's a standout of the show.
But also the police, like the main police guys.
Oh,
I really enjoy them as well.
So the guy who's in Game of Thrones, I can't remember his name, Pedro
Pascal.
Yeah, he's really good. I really enjoyed him. The other guy who plays, is it DA Agent Murphy? I think.
Yeah.
And I just felt like all the way through the show, I was never rooting for him. I never really cared about what he was doing. And obviously, as the show develops, he is becoming more like, you know, he's bending the law to get what he wants, which is Pablo down.
It's basically about like sort of mix between these two governments, like American and South American, trying to take down Pablo Escobar, the sort of like drug cartel. And it's really sort of dense. It's really unforgiving. Like it's half of it's English, half of it's in Spanish. So you have to read like a lot of
more like 70% of it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of subtitles.
So it's kind of like unforgiving. You really have to like completely focus on it. It's not something you can sort of watch in the background or anything like that. But I kind of like that. So it reminds me of The Wire in that way, where if you are not paying attention for a scene, then you'll be lost.
You can't be a passive fan of Narcos.
Definitely not. No. But I really like the sort of mix of like real life. They use a lot of like real life sort of footage and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos. No, it just every time it takes me out. I'm aware then I'm watching a TV show again. I was like, that's the real version. I was like, I just want to be invested in the show. It's not enough to really put me off the show. I love the show. It's just something that jarred me every time.
But for me, because they use like a lot of like old like sort of archive footage and things like that, that just makes me click that this is real. This is all stuff that's really happened. Definitely. He actually did a lot, and a lot of the stuff that he's doing as well. It makes it even better because it is real. Because you think if it was in a show that was just like completely straight up, just fictionalized, like just fiction drama. Yeah, you think, well, that's not believable at all. Mm. But because it's really, just think, God, how's this guy getting away with all this different stuff?
Are they definitely doing a second series?
They are. Yeah.
I don't know, like, where's left to go, really? Like, because I know the real events of Pablo Escobar, and I suppose that's spoiler territory going into there. But
yeah, I guess so.
It felt really well paced, though. That's one thing I will say about the show. It's like how, you know, this is a man's real life, and obviously he's had a crazy life, and all the things that he did were insane. But they managed, every episode felt like it felt self-contained to a degree as well. The first episode maybe not, was the one where it was sort of backstory, filling it all in so he could get you up to speed. But yeah, fantastic show. A really nerdy comment, but I really love the colours of the show as well.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's one of the only shows I think on Netflix that I don't feel like it was filmed in a warehouse. I always think that. Like, I love the first series of House of Cards, but I think that was filmed in a warehouse, in like a big warehouse where they had everything there. Yeah. And it all feels like that. It feels like everything takes place in a room, whereas this actually feels like it's actually outside.
Definitely, yeah.
Like even in like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, like that, it feels like everything you're watching is on a big set.
Did you watch season 3 of House of Cards?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good. That's been one of my favourite Netflix shows this year. The Russian, a lot of interaction between Frank and the Russian president, and it's very interesting. You can sense that they've probably drawn from Putin and things that happen in real life. He's a real son of a bitch. Yeah. And it's great just seeing him and Frank kind of going toe to toe. And yeah, I mean it's a series I find hard to watch. Yeah. Because I find it relentlessly disturbing, upsetting me on a level that I don't really like. I'm not very comfortable with. I'm a bit of a wimp, and it just like.
It's nasty.
And the funny thing is, I watched the original, there was a British version of House of Cards on when I was a kid. Yeah. And I remember it being one of the most frightening things I'd seen, because I was too young when I watched it. I was probably 10 when it was first on the telly. And he's very similar. The character is very similar. He's Francis Urquhart in the original, because he's posh. And I just remember how not being able to understand how someone so charming could be so evil. It was my first exposure to a character like that, and my 10-year-old brain couldn't really deal with it. And now my 37-year-old brain struggles to deal with Frank. Do I like him or don't I like him?
That's the thing. It's really hard because the stuff he does is just nasty and
her. She's really pretty. But she's evil.
Yeah.
What scares you more, Chris? The original House of Cards or the Superman 3 robot scene?
Oh, Superman 3 robots. No doubt whatsoever. Watch that on the Superhero Show.
I think one of the worst things about it as well is just the way that it feels, I've only watched 2 series, but even by sort of midway through series 2, I kind of could see, he's manipulating you for this reason, sort of thing. Whereas in the first series, a lot of it is thinking, even though he's a bad dude, you're thinking, is he doing this for the greater good? Is he just doing it himself? And then you go by series 2, you're like, no, he's just bastard.
I knew that because I'd seen the original, and I knew that if they were going to stick to who the character is, he's just pure evil. But so hopefully the fun's going to come now in starting to see his downfall, because they'll have to start doing that. That's a show where I definitely don't want to see the hero win, because it should be fun watching him, and there's elements of that in this season. But
that's the thing. It is going to be fun watching it, because it's going to make you feel better about yourself, isn't it? Because you've been along for this ride, and as you said, you've gone, do I like this guy? And if I do, what does that say about me? So actually having him fall and be like, okay, good, that's good, because that's what we don't get anymore. You get people who you kind of like Breaking Bad. You're kind of on his side because it all starts from a place of good, whereas this all is from just evil,
pure evil. We'll get on to the other Netflix ones in the next section, I feel like if we're talking about Netflix, is there any Amazon shows that you liked that came about this year?
I haven't watched Man in the High Castle yet.
No. It's been pretty mixed though. I feel like people have been quite mixed on that.
Apparently it's got a really, really good ending. But I watched all of Red Oaks, the David Gordon Green series, and I really liked the sort of, it was one of those pilots that Amazon did where they did a bunch of pilots, and then you could vote on which ones they would make into full shows, and it was one of the ones they made into a full show, and it's kind of good, but at the end when I finished it, kind of sort of looked at my girlfriend and we're just like, it's just utterly pointless.
It's a nice easy watch though. It's quite relaxing, it's not that laugh out loud funny.
No.
It's nice to see friend of the show Craig Roberts in it, and some of the periphery characters are funny. But no, I'm watching it as much for the nostalgia of the 80s, which is my thing. As I am for that you're desperate to watch episode after episode. Any Amazon ones that spring to mind?
Not. I don't have an Amazon Prime account, so I haven't seen any of them. No. Is it worth getting? Do you feel like there's enough TV shows on there to?
I've watched a lot of documentaries on there. I think they're getting there. I think their TV is getting better and better as they go along. And I think this way of letting the audience choose is a really interesting business model.
But would you suggest someone has Netflix and Amazon Prime Video?
Why not? I've got them.
So
that's your job, though.
Don't think
you've got one on top of your deal list from Netflix. And if I was going to make a list of my worst TV shows of the year, Master of None would be on it.
I thought you
mentioned this to me earlier.
I thought, did you not even like the first episode or something?
I really like.
I only watched the first episode, so I don't know.
Did you like it? It was a stinker.
I didn't finish it. It's too hard for me to watch Netflix with my internet connection at the moment. So,
okay.
So I can't.
That's not Aziz Ansari's fault.
Not entirely. No. It's not.
That's the biggest hook for me. I'm a massive Aziz Ansari fan.
So am I.
Yeah.
I love him. I read his book earlier in the year, and I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I love his stand-up. Been to see him live a couple of times.
Oh wow, okay.
I really liked him on Parks and Rec. He's one of my favourite characters.
But does he not feel like an extension of that character from Parks and Rec?
No.
Mixed with kind of what he is in real life,
It's too smug. It's like, I thought it was a really horrible, smug show.
And it's definitely not one of my favourite shows of the year, but it's something I found very easy to watch, and the time sort of flew by, and it felt like there were scenes in there, and I was like, what's really happening in this scene? I could never quite follow the narrative, so to speak. It was just a bit bizarre, but I found that intriguing as well, and it was something that it's resonated with me, it stuck with me. So
because he's such a smart person, And like his book is brilliant. Like you should definitely read his book. It's about it's called Modern Romance, and it's about sort of like dating sort of now. I thought it was going to kind of be like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of does draw upon some bits and bobs. But another show which I haven't put on my list but I completely forgot about was Louis as well.
Right.
Like that always just gets better and better all the time. But
it does feel a lot like Louis actually to me.
But at the same time, the thing I like about Louis is it's, you know, a comedian writing about this like weird world that I don't know anything about, but he writes in a way I was just like, that's exactly how people talk.
Yeah.
Like he writes like perfect dialogue with that. Whereas Master of None, nobody talks like that.
I agree.
And it's meant to be this sort of like realistic like comedy show. I'm just like, none of the things that are said, I don't really, I'm not on any character's side. People love the show though.
I didn't like his parents in it at all.
And everyone went mad for them, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a big thing. Like I think his dad was on Colbert, I think.
That's crazy because they were like, they completely took me out of it. At that point, they might as well have held like cue cards behind the camera or something because they were just bad, they were terrible actors.
That's making me want to watch it.
It's only I think it's the second episode they bring his parents in. Okay, so you don't have to watch much else if you.
But I felt like there was times where it was good fun, and it's just such a lovable guy as well. I always found myself like,
that is
something about him that always entertains me.
I think the comedy on Netflix has been pretty good though, generally. Kimmy Schmidt was an interesting show. You know, I had mixed feelings about it, but like it was quite a brave show, quite an unusual show,
so unusual,
quite edgy.
It's such a strange show that is. Like I really liked it and I finished
very
that.
Watchable.
Definitely.
Very
and
watchable.
I think like some of the jokes in that like really made me laugh like for days and days and days afterwards. But then the actual episodes themselves, the containing it, was sometimes a little bit poor.
Yeah.
I thought, actually, you haven't come up with a very good way of containing these jokes, but I still really enjoyed it. And what's her name, who plays Kimmy, is just really, really funny as well. She was one of my favourite things in The American Office, like later on.
Yeah.
She was really, really good.
No, it was good. And Wet Hot American Summer, you've got on your list as well, which Netflix brought back.
Which I didn't know anything about. I'd never seen the original film, and then I just saw it popping up on Netflix. I saw the cast, and it seemed bizarre, so I thought I'd give it a shot. So I watched the film first and then watched the show. And I just...
you were going to say you watched the show without watching the film.
No. So I saw it was coming, so I thought I'll watch the film first. And I just really enjoyed it because it's just... like a lot of these TV shows where we go are all serious and quite, you know, hard-hitting stuff. And that's just a bit of fun, a bit stupid. Yeah. It's a parody of itself. The fact that it's a prequel and they're playing their younger versions of their younger selves, it's ridiculous, and it was just good fun, I thought.
Yeah, that's something I enjoyed more than the film, actually. I mean, I watched the film at the time when it came out, and I found it a little bit annoying. But I think the jokes have got better, and I really like Gay Bradley Cooper as well. I like Bradley.
He was only on it for one day,
Bradley Cooper. Yeah,
he was on set for one day, and then they do a joke with it later where they put a mask on him. He's like DJ Ski Mask, just so they could use somebody else as like a stand-in for him.
Nice.
So it was really clever.